UFC 308, Max Holloway versus Ilia El Matador Topuria for the championship title. And I gotta say something. A lot of people are underestimating Max Holloway. It doesn't matter that Max Holloway put on a fucking masterclass against Justin Gaethje, a guy that everyone thought was gonna walk through him, this guy included, just proved to the world that he's still growing, that he's only 32 years old. And this is fascinating to me because for as long as I can remember, I know that Max Holloway's been in the UFC. And I thought he was a lot older. I thought he was like 40-something because he's been around for so long. And, I mean, the guy's 26-7. So you look at that, you're like, oh, 26-7 losses. All right. But to do what he did against Justin Gaethje, and, you know, he beat Yair Rodriguez back in 2021, Calvin Kattar in 2021. The only guy that's been a real thorn in his side for the last, 5 years is Alexander Volkanovski. I'm not going to get into the MMA math about that, about him fighting Topuria, a guy who beat Volkanovski, because the guy that Topuria fought was not the real Volkanovski. I know you guys hate to hear that, but it's true. But Max Holloway is going to put on a master class, and he's going to embarrass Ilia Topuria. Now, I was watching Ilia Topuria when he was coming up into the UFC, and, he's a knockout artist, right? In the UFC. The funny thing is, his record is 15-0. He has 5 knockouts, and I believe all 5 of them came in the UFC. Let me, check this. Damon Jackson, Ryan Hall, Jai Herbert, Alexander Volkanovski. Okay, so he has 1 in Brave FC. The rest of his wins, except for 1 decision, I think, were all submissions. And the reason why he hasn't gotten a chance to show his ground game is because he hasn't had to, number 1. And number 2, I think that the people that he's facing, he knows better than to get on the ground with them, especially Max Holloway. It's just not going to work. However, he still has those skills, right? The huge difference between Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria is Max Holloway, it's not that he's a veteran, it's that he's a creative, adaptive veteran. Whereas Ilia Topuria has a very definite style. He has a very forward-standing style. He just moves forward, and the thing that people just don't get about him is that no one has put pressure on him. He has this weird thing that he does, right? He has both of his hands up. He tucks his chin really well. He looks like a boxer, and he has the same pattern in every single fight. He only moves forward. He never moves laterally, ever. You never see him move to the left, never to the right. And the only time he backs up is when he's measuring distance from a punch. But usually, he's not even doing that because he's a counter striker. So he waits. And if you look at the first round between him and Volkanovski, his last fight, he lost the first round. He was getting outstruck. And the only time that he decided to do anything was when he thought he had a good counterpunch. That's it. He scored a couple of leg kicks. That's going to come into play in this fight against Holloway. He's just a very predictable fighter. I mean, he moves forward, and he bends his back leg. He moves his front leg forward, and then he just retracts back. He goes forward, ducks down a little bit, goes forward, ducks down a little bit. I don't know if he's trying to fake a level change, but he's just so stiff. There's no head movement. He doesn't move to the left or the right, nothing. Max Holloway, he always has this weird face on, right? He puts his hands really high, but he's adaptive. He doesn't rely on combos. Ilia Topuria, he relies on combos. Max Holloway is not afraid to get punched. As a matter of fact, Volkanovski couldn't knock him out, even though Volkanovski for 5 rounds beat the living shit out of Max Holloway. Destroyed his face. Couldn't knock him out. Like, he knows how to take a punch. He really does. He's not afraid to try new things, even if he's never tried it before, because I think he told Jerk Rogaine, you people know him as Joe Rogan, he told Jerk Rogaine that that little kick that he caught Justin Gaethje with at the very end of the first round in his last fight, he saw that in some video game or something, and he wanted to try it to see if it was going to work, and he kept doing it throughout the fight. He landed a couple more times because Justin just kept ducking into it. It wasn't like that was the only thing that he was doing. Like, he was landing a shitload of uppercuts. Like, he has an underrated uppercut, and he's not afraid to move in. He's not afraid to move forward. He's not afraid to take punches. If you guys think this is going to be the first fight ever where we see Ilia Topuria have pressure put on him, and to see how he reacts to that. And he's going to have pressure put on him by a guy who could take a punch. Never mind striking accuracy. You're going to have to kill Max Holloway for him to stop. Now, everyone wants to talk about Ilia Topuria's lack of cardio because we haven't really seen it. Well, against Josh Emmett, he lasted 5 rounds. But as good as Josh Emmett is, and I'm going to say this every single time I make these kind of videos, I respect anyone who gets into the UFC cage. You are warriors. But Josh Emmett is just not on the same level as Ilia Topuria. He's not on the same level as Max Holloway. He's not on the same level as a lot of guys. He could beat the shit out of anyone outside of the cage for sure. But when it comes to the UFC, he's just a level below The top 5. He just is. Like, he's just not championship material. I hate to say it, but it's just true. There's certain things that he lacks in his game. Ilia Topuria exposed that, as have other people in the UFC. But that doesn't mean that we should discount the fact that Topuria can definitely last 5 rounds against the guy who's a punching bag. Now, Max Holloway is not a punching bag. However, Ilia Topuria is. Go back and watch round 1. Watch the entire round. Shut off the announcers because you don't want to listen to Joe Rogan or like DC or even John Anik, because the shit they say just makes absolutely no sense. The fact is that Volkanovski, and again, when you see when they throw up the significant strikes, which is not even before the round is over, Volkanovski was tagging him left and right. And this was not the full-blown Volkanovski that we're used to seeing. He wasn't doing a lot of stance switches, which is something that he really relies on. He wasn't doing his signature combos. There's just a lot of things he wasn't doing. Volkanovski is known for really displaying his power. And he wasn't able to get those punches directly into Ilia because Ilia was not engaging. Ilia was just standing there and praying to God that he landed a counter, which he did in the second round. Now, another thing about Ilia Topuria, and I'm just going to go back and forth because it's more fun to do it this way. Ilia Topuria has mastered the back of the head punch. Now, whether or not it's intentional, I still think that he practices this shit, because go look at the second round of Volkanovski. He caught him in the back of the head, then he landed the overhand right to knock him out. That back of the head punch did not look like something that he didn't practice. That is something that he knows how to land. He knows how to come around the side, and he knows how to hit just the right spot to stun his opponent. That's a skill. He did it twice. Against Josh Emmett. The thing is, and I'm going to pull up the rules, I'm going to read the official rules. This is in the section on fouls. This is the unified MMA rules that the UFC is currently under. Section 7 in fouls. Strikes to the spine or back of the head. A, the back of the head starts at the crown of the head with a 1-inch variance to either side, running down the back of the head to the occipital junction, which is that little bottom part of your neck, which goes to your spine. It then travels down the spine with a 1-inch variance from the spine center line, including the tailbone. Now, what that means is that the second time that Ilia Topuria punched Josh Emmett, he punched him, not only did he punch him in the back of the head, he punched him in the spine. And it wasn't called a foul, and he wasn't disqualified, and he had no points taken off. He should have, but he didn't. I guess that, the ref didn't see that he punched Volkanovski in the back of the head. Back to the Josh Emmett fight, that was the second time he struck him in the back of the head. So there should have been 2 fouls in that fight. He has a very predictable pattern, and he's always going for that back of the head strike. And the reason why it works is because he hasn't been forward pressured yet by anyone. He's not that exciting of a fighter. I'm sorry. You can watch any Max Holloway fight, even when he's getting his ass kicked by Volkanovski. It's a fun fight to watch. Well, let's just talk about Max Holloway again, right? He likes to hold his hands high. He's very patient, but he's always striking. He's always moving forward. He's always looking for an opportunity to strike. Again, it's not combo-based. But he is susceptible to leg kicks. Even Justin Gaethje was having success with leg kicks early, catching Max Holloway a couple of times. When he gets backed up against the cage, he uses it well. He always measures his distance. He feels back behind him, and he knows exactly where he is, so he has very good awareness. He has situational awareness, as they call it in the military, as to how to use his environment to his advantage, and he does it extremely well. He's non-responsive to flinches or fakes or feigns, whatever you want to call it. He just doesn't react. He wants to see what you're going to do. He wants to see if you're actually going to hit him, and he takes the punch and he sees what happens. So therefore, all of this garbage that like Ilia is doing with this little move forward and then move back and move forward, when he sees that that's an ongoing pattern, he's going to be like, all right, I know exactly what this motherfucker's trying to do. So another thing about Max, he has perfect lateral movement. That means he knows how to manage the side-to-side movement. And this is something that Ilia is just gonna move like a robot to the left and to the right. Okay, try that with Max Holloway. When he moves to the left and then he cuts back to the right, he opens you up on your right side and he hits you with a fucking head kick. I want to see what Topuria does then. And he's always tracking his opponent. He's always moving forward. He's always following them. This is not going to be like any other fight that Ilia Topuria has ever experienced, because finally a guy is going to move forward. He's going to track him down. He's going to have great lateral movement. He's going to engage, and he's going to take the punch, and he's not going to react to flinches. He uses the low kick to check the distance between him and his opponent, something that he did against Gaethje, but he throws it like a jab. Like, it's very weak. It's just like he barely taps the guy. Why? He wants to see how close he is. But he's also setting you up to see if he's going to catch you with something else that he just comes up with in his head. I'm not saying he doesn't practice combos, but you don't really see combos being used by Max Holloway. But what he does do extremely well, and this is something he's done in every fight, and he's always been successful, he uses these half strikes. He's halfway committing to a strike, and then he'll probably use the same hand and halfway commit again, and then hit you with a right. Or he'll halfway commit to a jab, and then hit you with an overhand, and then a second overhand right. This is the way he is. He's very creative with this stuff, and everyone that I've ever seen has always gotten caught with it. One of his methods is that if you watch him very carefully, he'll actually drop his left hand back, and so you think that he's winding up with his left. What he's actually doing is moving forward. So that's a very sneaky, creative thing that he does. And finally, about Max Holloway, everyone underestimates or doesn't even talk about the power and the accuracy of his uppercuts. Why is he so successful with uppercuts? Because he's not afraid to move in and engage. And Ilia Topuria will be on the receiving end of many Max Holloway uppercuts, unless he gets laid out early, because I predict a knockout for Max Holloway in this fight. And if it's not a knockout, it's going to be a masterclass. I don't see Max Holloway losing. However, there are a couple of things that Ilia Topuria can do if he wants to win. The first thing he's going to have to do, completely change his style. If he goes in there with this stiff stance and moving and bouncing and just waiting, he's going to get clocked, he's going to get hit, he's going to get tired, he's going down. So these are the three main things that he can do to actually solidify a victory or at least pave the way for it. But I don't think it's going to happen. That's why I think this is more like an alternate universe thing. But let's say that we live in a universe where like Topuria decides that he's actually going to fight Max Holloway on his terms. The first thing he needs to do, he needs to use the leg kick early. Because Max Holloway is very susceptible to that front kick. I mean, just watch all of his fights. Volkanovski was cutting him down with the low kick. Even Justin Gaethje caught him a couple of times. Now, let's say that he successfully applies my method, my suggestion, Ilia Topuria, of throwing the leg kicks often and early in order to get the legs out of the way from Max Holloway. When he gets to round 2, he needs to use the body kick combined with jabs only. So in other words, kick him in the body, then Max gets a little impatient, he moves in. Don't do no overhead crazy counter strike like he used to doing, or the back of the head illegal punch. Don't do that. Just jab him. Because if you jab him, this is what Volkanovski did, and this is why Volkanovski beat him. He just used the jab, nonstop. Did he also land a couple of other major big strikes, which eventually led to his victory? Sure, he did. But the jab is what Max Holloway is going to walk right into if he gets a little impatient. So he needs to do that for round 2. By round 3, Ilia Topuria can go back to his style and solidify the victory. But that's not going to happen. That's just an alternate universe. Because the fact of the matter is, Ilia Topuria's style is very, very simple. It's not hard to dissect, and it's very predictable. This is what he is. Ilia Topuria is a pure counter striker, and he's not aggressive. He's overly patient. Like, he actually allows opponents to control the fight. I mean, he, again, like I was saying before, he lost to Volkanovski easily in the first round. He has no head movement. No head movement when he's moving forward. I'm not talking about if someone throws a punch, he has to move his fucking head. He's very stiff. He's very stiff, and he just kind of moves like this. He moves like a fucking, I don't know, a robotic Terminator or some shit. And he gets hit often, and he absorbs way too many kicks to the head. Even though he's blocking him, he absorbs them. I mean, anyone who's sparred, which I have, and you go like this, which is the dumbest thing that coaches fucking teach you. Oh yeah, just put your hand up, you know, it'll absorb. Your hand is getting pushed into your face while this guy's kicking it. It's not fun. And many times in round 1, you see Volkanovski, which is why Topuria's face was a little fucked up after the fight, even after 1 round. He absorbs way too many head kicks. Try that with Max Holloway, see what happens. He does have a major positive trait. He has very fast, creative combos when he feels the opponent is susceptible to them when he's spent. But it's not going to work against Holloway. So Holloway, if he wants to win, he should fight a traditional fight. Just creative striking, forward pressure, change nothing, he'll win. That's my suggestion to Max Holloway. I mean, that's it. It's pretty much laid out here. I mean, Max is going to be way too elusive for Ilia Topuria. He's not going to be able to land any kind of solid strikes. And if he does, he's going to need to do what he did to Volkanovski, which is get a lucky shot to the back of the head. That's the only way he's going to win this fight. This is the only way he's going to, you know, again, but it's not going to happen in this universe. In universe number 26904-578, where like Dana White is also a transgender female, that's the universe that Ilia Topuria beats Max Holloway, but not in this one. So Topuria is going to have to completely change his training style, which he's not going to do. And we're going to have to see, a completely different Ilia Topuria, because casual fans are going to be very upset. They're going to be very upset because real fans know that Max Holloway is going to put on a masterclass. He is going to be champion, and he'll be a double champion, by the way. He will be the BMF champion. He'll be the UFC champion. And then we'll see 4. That's right. We're going to see number 4, Volkanovski versus Holloway. And that's the fight that I can't wait for. While Ilia Topuria is going to be sleeping, or he's going to be just completely shocked and devastated, and casual fans will be crying with him when he gets a decision victory against him. You can bet on it. You can count on it. And when I'm right, come give me 10%.